Satan tried to get me. Walk in my shoes, devil trying to fit me. But he don't know I got the power fit me. Nah, he don't know I got the power. All my life, Satan tried to get me. Walk in my shoes, devil trying to fit me. But he don't know I got the power fit me. Nah, he don't know I walk in power fit me.
Good evening. It's me, HRap, the End of the Bench Media. This is my favorite episode of Rapping with HRap, where I talk to people from the community about their life, their current situation, the past situation, and their future situation. I want to use this as a platform to uplift people. Tonight, we have a special guest, a pillar of the community, one of the sons of the Westside of Chicago, a guy who has been a mentor to many children, including mine. He is a police officer. He is a man of God. I should have said man of God first. That is kind of disrespectful. He's a man of God. He's a husband. He's a father. He's a mentor. He's a police officer. And I call him my friend. His name is Lieutenant Dan Allen, Chicago Police Department. Welcome aboard, Dan.
What's up, man? Thank you for that introduction. Well received.
Oh, thank you, man. Ain't no problem, man. You're a good brother. I've known you for quite some time. You met you through the Divine Purpose Ministry. We'll talk about that a little later. You are an example of what we should be in this community. Introduce yourself, and then we'll get this show on the road.
All right. Well, the introduction you gave me, man, summed me up already, man.
Yeah.
I'm Lieutenant. I'm Daniel Allen. I'm just Dan Allen. You know, Westside native, born and raised in North Lawndale on 16th Street. You know, went to Manly High School. I started with Anton Dvorak in North Lawndale, then went to Manly High School. Went to Northern Illinois University. Well, the Westside is my home, is my love. And when I got on the police department, I started back working on the Westside. You know, so all roads led back to the Westside. And then, like I said, Divine Purpose Youth Performing Arts Center, led by myself and my wife, Victoria, is an amazing youth program where we was able to impart a lot of mentorship into young people with the emphasis in performing arts. And that's who I am.
Man, and you know what? If I've never thanked, I don't know if I have, but I want to thank you for creating Divine Purpose Ministry and Youth and Arts Center, because again, it gave my children things to do. It gave my children structure. You know, not that me and their mother didn't provide structure, but it gave them something to do. It gave them and it introduced them to people outside of the neighborhood, different experiences. I used to come by and I used to take the children on field trips. Used to introduce them on how to play music. You are one of the reasons, like later on in life, like I was always into music. Hip hop was my thing. And my son picked up on DJing through me. And he picked up on a true love of music through you. So first and foremost, I want to thank you for that. My daughter, she got different, you know, your daughter's her friend, and a bunch of the young ladies that were there. I think they're still friends and they still hang out young. Once they get past 21, they don't tell you anything. So
yeah,
I'm grown, you know, I'm grown. So, you know, but you are definitely positive light. I remember going to praise dancing on Chicago Avenue. I remember all those things. You did the father-daughter dance. I still got that picture with me and my daughter. It's in my phone right now. So first and foremost, thank you for being a pillar of the community. Thank you for being a beacon of light in the community. And thank you for helping out children all over the west side of Chicago.
Thank you. I appreciate that love.
Yeah, man, always. Now, you and the other guests I have, what I want to do, I'm going to lay it out for the new people and the people who've seen several of these. I want to talk about the past, who you are, how you got to where you are, what are you doing now, and what the future holds for the west side of Chicago as well as your family. Now, what I always start off with is one question. What is your oldest and most fond memory? That way we get to know who you are, and we'll walk through your life and then we'll proceed. Talk to me. Oldest and most fond memory.
Whew. I would say my oldest and most fond memory, what I do share with people, was when I went to Manly High School back in the day, in the 80s. Baseball, even though music is my passion, music and sports were both equally my passion. Mm-hmm. You know, they interceded with each other, because my old church, Christ Tabernacle, on the Reverend Milton Bronson, we had some of the most amazing musicians that was in the city of Chicago who were also athletes. So that was just who we are. And then my family, my mother's side of the family, the Jordans, we have amazing musicians, amazing singers, but they also are athletes too. Okay. So that was what we did. So I would say the most fun thing to me was when I was at Manly High School. Okay. Manly was in it's by West Garfield, North Lawndale, West Humboldt. This is in an area was known for baseball.
Yes.
And basketball. Everybody know when you think about Manly Wildcats, you think about basketball, you think about baseball. Baseball was like a hidden gem in Manly. Mm-hmm. I went to Manly actually kind of like by default. That wasn't my number one school I wanted to go to. But when I went there, I wanted to play baseball. Mm-hmm. And I knew that it was going to be hard for me to make the baseball team there because they had some amazing baseball players who was like on the basketball team, on the football team. There were a lot of triathletes, you know. So my freshman year, I wanted to get on the baseball team. They had a Frosh-Hoff team. My appendix ruptured. Oh, and I couldn't play baseball my freshman year. I was the saddest 14, 15-year-old young man in the world because I couldn't play the freshman year. So what happens to me, I get well. When you're young, you heal fast. I come back my sophomore year, I'm ready to play Frosh-Hoff baseball. They cut the Frosh-Hoff baseball program. Oh my God, I was mentally depleted. I was so sad because baseball was my game. Mm-hmm. But they allowed underclassmen to try out for the varsity baseball team. All that talent, I said, well, I'm going to try out, but I didn't expect to make the team because of all the talent that was there. Mm-hmm. I tried out. I worked so hard. As a sophomore, I made the varsity team. It was only 3 underclassmen that made the varsity team, and I was one of the 3. The reason that that's so important to me, is because that was something that I didn't expect to do. I didn't have the confidence, but I did make the varsity baseball team at Manly against all odds. But what that did was that instilled so much confidence in me with the rest of my life. That's why I'm the confident person that I am. And that's why I instill confidence into younger and older people, because you can do anything that God says that you can do.
Thank you for throwing that piece in. And man, congratulations on that. And again, you know, you are the 3rd consecutive week that the guests and I lives run parallel. One of my good friends, Patrick Chris, he said, thank you. He said, thank you.
Thanks for
my role model. And me and him started off at the same high school, and I transferred because they wouldn't allow freshmen to play. I'm like, I'm going to Westside. So again, you know, that's the purpose of this, to show people in the world that we have more things in common than different. You know, the goal is to bridge the gap, age, sex, gender, you know, and culturally. You know, and even Southern and Northern or Eastern and Western America, Black America, because we have this thing, in my opinion, we have this thing that we figure out ways to show how different we are. And we are not a monolith, but we are the same kinds of people. We all want the same things. We want peace and happiness and joy and home, food, clothing, and shelter, love, peace, and happiness. So I want to continue to do that and show that beacon of light. You mentioned baseball was your thing. Let's talk about early years in baseball. Who were some of your favorite people, and how did you get into baseball?
I got into baseball because I was born and raised there on 16th Street. Mm-hmm. Back in the day, 16th Street was known for families. Mm-hmm. It was known for structure with sports, especially block clubs. It was a big deal. And back in the day, blocks used to play against each other in football and baseball and basketball. Basketball was my 3rd sport. Football and baseball were the sports that I was better in, and music, of course. Those are my 3 things I excelled in. And I think that because of my block on the 16th and Drake, we had a lot of young kids that played baseball, and it forced me to become better at baseball. And so I played with BBR, Better Boys, over there on Better Boys Republican. Over there on 16th Street, close to, I think, Hamlin. And then from there, I just kept playing in different leagues, and that's when I went to play for Manly. And that was my baseball thing. And I think my mother, believe it or not, my mother, who's 86 years old, was a huge Cubs fan. I don't know, maybe because her family just played sports, and it turned me into a Cubs fan. I used to watch Cubs games with my mother. Okay. Maureen Allen, I used to watch Cubs games with her. And one of my favorite players was Yvonne De Jesus. He was a shortstop.
Yes, indeed.
Because he was known for having a cannon.
And then Fro.
And then Fro, yes. And then, of course, and Ryan Sandberg was one of my favorites, and Andre Dawson. The reason I love Ryan Sandberg because I love playing second base myself.
Okay.
So, because that was my position, and man, it was the Cubs for me. I was in love with them.
Von de Jesus, you took me back. That's Jack Brick. That's Jack Brickhouse and Harry Carey. Yeah.
Aging myself, bro.
And much like you, again, to continue to draw these parallels, that was my deal. My uncle was a pro basketball player, and I looked up to him. He was my hero. But football and baseball was my thing, and the reason I gravitated towards, and much like you and your mom, me and my mom used to watch football together. My mother turned me on to football, and I got into baseball because, unlike most people in America, I'm left-handed. Reggie Jackson is left-handed. Reggie Jackson was the man when we grew up, so of course I'm gonna be Reggie Jackson. I was gonna be Rod Carew, another left-handed guy. So that's what pushed me into baseball. And like you said, a lot of people who are not familiar with Chicago, as you stated, those block clubs were paramount in the development of the youth in our day. We used to literally, either when we got old enough to drive, if one of your friends had a car, we would go from neighborhood to neighborhood and play people. Or you ride your bike to another neighborhood. Y'all ready? And it wasn't any violence, it wasn't any foolishness. It was like, we over here to play, y'all. Are y'all ready? And it was a good situation. Yeah. Music. Talk to me about music. How did you get into music, and what are your favorite? What are some of your favorite people and things about music?
How I got into music was pretty much a family situation. Mm-hmm. My mom, on my mom's side of the family, is the Jordans. The Jordans in Tennessee. My mom is from Tennessee, but she came up to she migrated up to Chicago. Mm-hmm. It was just a natural thing with us because of my family. Everybody was into music. It was just. The Jordans in Tennessee are just amazing, talented people. And I inherited some of that, thank God. But how I started was at Christ Tabernacle Missionary Baptist Church under Reverend Milton Bronson. That church was known for some of the most profound gospel artists in the world with the Thompson Community Singers. I never sung with the Thompson Community Singers, but I sung with the church choir. And just being around all of those great music legends that came through Christ Tabernacle was really what launched me into music. But I really didn't get my start, for lack of better words, until I went away to college. I learned a lot of things from being in Christ Tabernacle, singing in the youth choir, and singing under the great leaders at Christ Tabernacle. But when I went away to college, when I went away to Northern Illinois universities, was when I was playing the drums. I started on the drums. And from there, that's when I really got more profound at the drums, and I started learning how to direct choirs. I always sung, but the director at NIU, he pushed me to do more than just be on the drums. And I think that's where my really start came from. It was Northern Illinois University. That pushed my confidence to no end from there. And from there, I just kept doing different projects. And then me and my wife started Divine Purpose Youth Performing Arts because we both said, you know what? We both have, she dance, she sings, I sing, I play the piano a little bit. And praise and worship is what my specialty is right now to this day. Okay. And I think that what we both said was, you know what, we both have a gift, but let's impart this into some young people so that they can start off younger. And that's how Divine Purpose started. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's take it back there. Let's talk about this community, Lawndale community. This is one of the more storied communities when you're on the west side. Some people use words like treacherous and things of that nature, but when you are immersed in that community, you understand that you walk around with safety because everybody knew everybody. It's one of the beauties of the west side. We're not as big as the south side, but you can't go 3 blocks without running to one of your mother's friends. Talk to me about Lawndale.
Oh my God. Ooh, you hit the nail on the head. And you always hear the stories about if you got in trouble at school, you know, like I went to Anton Dvorak, Penn, Corkery, Herzl, all those schools was all cut from the same cloth. Mm-hmm. If you got in trouble at school, when you came home, on the way home, you might get some act rights by a couple of parents who might be at the store getting bread, and word to spread it that you didn't got in trouble. You might get a couple of smacks on the way home to make sure you get home. And the family atmosphere with block clubs was just so amazing. Mm-hmm. That it taught us standards that we're really trying to bring back nowadays. And North Lawndale was notorious for having just strong family ties and community relationships that we're trying to bring back to this day.
Exactly, man. It was a wonderful situation over there. I have an aunt Emma who lives over there. My dad's younger sister. I got an uncle Otis who's from over there, and Otis was one of the people that at work you would interact with. But
Yeah.
yeah, Otis was one of those guys. But even with that being said, my cousin, his name is Salah Houdin now, but he was known as Roy Davidson. I got a ton of cousins over there, and my family is from the area called Jewtown, and we just migrated. My dad's family, we just migrated from Halsted, clean back to Lawndale. So I'm very familiar with that, and I'm one of the few people. And no matter where I was, I was at Western House, right, just west of Miami. So we would catch the bus down to Homan. And from once I got to Homan and Roosevelt, every time somebody got on that bus, they knew my mother. And, they called my dad Rooster. You Rooster's boy. I don't even know my dad. My dad died before I was born. You know me. So, yeah, man, that's the beauty of the West Side. And you're right. We need to stop. And again, that's a portion of why I do this program, because I want to bring that Chicago family back. I don't think it's difficult. A lot of people think it's difficult, but I don't think so. Now, you in high school, you playing baseball, we in this love-filled community. Talk to me about the people that you met, the people you interacted with, the friends that you brought into your life at that point.
So during high school time?
Yeah, during high school, as you were coming up.
I think the most influential people to me, outside of some of my students, were my baseball coach.
Mm-hmm.
My baseball coach, Mr. D. Cristofano, that was his name, the short Italian guy. Mm-hmm. He cuffed me. We used to go to all the games together, and he was like a father figure to me. Even though he was Italian, he still was a father figure to me. Mm-hmm. And then the athletes at Manly were the ones who I really, really got close to. Some of them was involved with gang life because that was just the climate. But they were some amazing athletes. And I think to this day, the reason that I'm so understanding to guys that's involved with gang life is because when I played baseball for Manly, I remember this incident when we played against Collins High School, and we beat Collins, and we had Collins was on south of Roosevelt, by Kedzie in Sacramento. We had to walk back from Collins Field to Manly. A bunch of gangsters, another rival gang, disciples, because Manly had vice lords. They blocked the street as to say, when y'all come, if y'all thinking y'all finna leave, y'all finna get dealt with. The rival gang members that went to Manly, that was the star athletes at Manly, were also popular guys that was involved with gang life. They saved our butts.
Mm-hmm.
And they had some type of truce where they said, no, these guys are athletes. Leave them alone. After that situation was when I had a newfound respect for guys that was in that lifestyle, because they were also amazing athletes, and they just showed us love. So, and I think by me being in law enforcement and being a youth leader is the reason that I relate to guys in the street so well, because of history situations like that.
And yes, I totally understand. I was having a conversation recently with someone, and we were talking about that very situation. Like when you watch the news, you hear about all this nefarious activity, you hear about the violence and things of that nature. But like you, I had coaches, Mr. Salentino, Mr. Condotti, Mr. Meyer, Mr. Shannon. Mr. Shannon may have been the most influential teacher out of all of those at Western House Vocational High School. So I could totally relate to all that. He was the Frostar football coach. It was just we come from a situation to where as the community touched you, no matter if once somebody saw a glow, hey, you got the light, I'm gonna leave you alone. And I told repeatedly about instances whereas gang leaders, I can remember this one guy. They used to call him Fat Jaw because he talked a lot. But Fat Jaw was like the leader of the group, and one of the guys who were with me, he continued to try to be a GD. He wanted to be in. And Fat Joe used to tell, hey, man, why don't you go over there and catch up with your crowd? And this is what's missing. You had people who saw, hey, you have potential. This is a lifestyle you want nothing of. And they would push you away. But, we have lost when you don't know anybody. And again, I believe that this comes from us, a structure that we have in the community where you had people who were street level people, you had working class people, you had players and hustlers, and then that made up the entire community. But we used to keep people away from those things. Some of those guys used to put a shield of protection, and I remember they even call it an athlete's pass.
Yes.
I remember that.
That's it.
Because I remember being able to wear my Western House jacket anywhere in the city, and then gangs would be like, "Hey, who is that?" And then they look at your jacket and go, "Keep going."
Yep.
And we're not celebrating gang members, but it was culture. Right. It was just a culture of safety that they provided for potential people. So these are the things that we need to come back. Now, you in high school, you're getting the proper tutelage. You at home getting the proper tutelage. You've mentioned church a couple of times. Talk to me about the church and the church life and how that affected you.
I will say this. Reverend Milton Bronson, who was one of the most profound ministers in the city of Chicago, mostly known for his music, from the Thompson Community Singers and Christ Tabernacle Choir. But outside of that, Reverend Milton Bronson was one of the most amazing youth leaders without being called a youth leader there was. He was a disciplinarian. Mm-hmm. I probably still got some bumps and bruises to prove that. But that church was such, it provided so much youth leadership because a lot of us sang in the youth choir at the church back in the day when we was teenagers, but we also played a lot of basketball because we had a gym at the church, and then we played a lot of softball because Reverend Bronson was huge into softball. Mm-hmm. And the church under Reverend Milton Bronson at Christ Tabernacle Missionary Baptist Church, he had a lot of men that was in that church that provided mentorship. They provided leadership without even calling them mentorship. Mm-hmm. I don't think they even knew what they were doing, that they were being mentors. Mm-hmm. But they provided that. And at Christ Tabernacle, I gained a lot of musical wisdom, watching some of the greats musically. And then sports. Yes, Reverend Bronson is a legend. Yes, he is, Maurice. And I think because of that environment, right there on Central and Iowa in Austin, that environment at that church taught me how to be a man. Mm-hmm. It taught me how to be a music leader. Mm-hmm. And it taught me how to be a husband, a dad, how to be a community leader. That one church taught me all of those values, and it taught a lot of young men and young ladies those values. I love Christ Tabernacle.
And you know what? My mother, she didn't send us to church as frequently as I think she wanted to. She was a single parent. Well, I come from a single parent home. My dad passed away, but she made sure the Lord was heavily involved in our house. And I remember we used to go to the Church of Israel on the south side of Chicago. We went from Roosevelt and Racine to like 79th Street, and Congregation of Israel. And just like you said, it was the men that were there, the way they dressed, the way they talked to you, the way they act. They didn't even know that's what they were doing. And the leader of the church was the guy, Brother Stern. And we would go to Bible study every Friday night. And it was a pleasant situation. And we talking about, we stopped going to that place maybe 78. And it still has an impact on me to this very day. And when you were saying that, it reminded me of every Friday evening at Bible study, Brother Stern would make me read scripture from the Bible. We talk about I'm 7 years old. He would make me read scripture from the Bible every Friday. And that, lo and behold, that was preparing me to do what I'm doing presently with me and you on this. So like you said, these guys, these elders, these men getting up, doing things, cleaning the neighborhood, making sure no trash is on the ground, making sure you walk straight up, don't be slouching and all that type of stuff. You didn't even realize you were being trained to be an adult. And again, I've never heard of Pastor Reverend Milton Bronson. Please give me a little bit on him, and then we can continue to move forward.
So Reverend Milton Bronson, a brief history on him. He's his claim to fame was he was an awesome pastor on the west side of Chicago. Christ Tabernacle Missionary Baptist Church. It started off on Madison, like in K-Town. Then he moved his church on to Central in Iowa. Reverend Bronson was one of the most profound choir directors I didn't even realize how cold he was a director. I had to look at some of his old stuff on YouTube and like, man, that was my old pastor. But his claim to fame is the Thompson Community Singers. Okay. Anybody that knows anything about gospel music know that the Thompson Community Singers is a Grammy Award-winning choir that had some of the great legends, the Darius Brooks, the Tyrone Blocks, the Percy Beatties, Richard Gibbs. They had Al. They had all of these amazing musicians that came through that church, and they just turned the gospel world musically upside down. I wasn't at their level, but I tell you what, safe in his arms, that's it. But I tell you what, I've learned so much from them now that now my confidence being older is through the roof, but it was stemmed from there. So what my goal is to do now is to put my confidence that I got, that I learned from them, is to still let into some young people who want to be artists.
Okay. Now, you at NIU, North Illinois University. You get into this music thing. You basically building your confidence is where it needs to be. You come from a loving community, a loving home. What as you matriculate through the academic portion of your life, what pushed you? How did you end up with the Chicago Police Department?
That's a good question. So when I was actually at NIU, and music was all I talked about at that point in my life. I still was playing baseball. NIU didn't have a baseball team; they had a baseball club. Okay. And because they was getting ready to start the baseball program back during that time frame, so I was a part of the baseball club. But at that point, music was starting to really take over my life as far as my passion between the two. Music was starting to overshadow sports. At that point, because I guess I kind of figured maybe I'm not going to the MLB, so I think maybe I need to concentrate on this music thing a little bit more, because I figure I can sing until I'm 90 years old. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think what happened at NIU, the director name was the choir was called NIU Black Choir, and the director name was Stacy Bolden. He was firm, but he was actually. He observed talent. When Stacy saw some things that was in me musically, he was like, I want you to learn how to direct. I want you, because one day I said a quick funny story. Okay. Everybody know I like to goof around. You know what I mean? So right before Stacy used to come to rehearsal, I used to get in front of the choir and direct, acting a fool, like joking around. He came in one day, I didn't see him, and he saw me. He just stood there and crossed his arms. And he probably don't even remember this. And he just watched me directing the choir, like goofing around, warming them up for him. Then he told me, you know what? I looked at him and said, oh, I'm sorry, Stacy. He said, no, you better not stop. Keep directing the choir. I said, I'm not really a director. Keep directing the choir. He made me direct the choir. And he said, you better not mess up. You better not mess up. And I didn't mess up. And ever since then, that instilled me turning into, I don't consider myself a choir director per se. I can direct. I'm a praise and worship guy. That's my strength. But that taught me how to impart leadership into myself musically at NIU. And then I did pledge Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity down there. I didn't cross back then because my grades wasn't right and I just wasn't doing things correctly, being a young man. But that was going on with me at the time frame at NIU.
Let's take a step back. Let's talk about NIU. I did skip a piece. Let's talk about NIU. What made you choose NIU, and what was your experience like at NIU in DeKalb, Illinois?
Man, NIU was actually amazing. My best friend who's passed away, God bless his soul, is Eric Hartzog. My brother, my play brother, my frat brother. He's just like out of the three, me, my brother Brian Williams, Lazarick Hartzog, Sean Howery, us four, we was like inseparable. So when me and Lazarick graduated, we both was at Christ Tabernacle's choir. Our families was close to each other. So me and Lazarick was like, we was going to go to UCLA. But we both didn't get accepted, or I don't even know if we even applied, but for some reason we wanted to go to California. And we both was like, hey man, you hear about the school Northern? Yeah. He said, let's go together. Let's apply together. So we both applied, we got accepted. And that's how we both wound up going to NIU together, and we became roommates. So my experience down there was different because I come from the west side of Chicago, West Garfield. So now I go to this predominantly white institution, and the same things the police used to stop us from doing, playing loud music and all that stuff. I go on a college campus at like a freshman orientation, like 3-day orientation, and they got music playing and all this stuff going on a college campus. I was like, can they do this out loud? They just like a noise disturbance.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, no, they can do this on the college campus. I was like, wow. So what happened was when we started going to NIU, I was shell shocked. I was like, first of all, I wasn't used to being around different nationalities like that because I was from 16th Street. But when I saw how much we were received and loved by different nationalities, I was like, it was an eye opener to what life is going to be. And it started right there at Northern.
And you know what, man? And that's one of the things, again, this is what I want people to understand, this whole Chicago experience. A lot of people see, I know I have friends all over the country. I mean, from border to border, coast to coast. I got family on the West Coast in California. I got a sister who lives in Oregon. I got a homie who lives in Washington. I got people in Texas. I got loved ones in Arizona, Texas. We all got, I always tell my friends in Texas, Chicago is nothing but Arkansas, Alabama, and Mississippi. That's all Chicago is.
Right.
You throw some Tennessee in there, and that's what Chicago is. But what I want them to do is understand that Chicago is an extremely segregated place. If you didn't know better, you would think Chicago was a large town in Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, or something like that. So when we leave that west side of Chicago or the south side of Chicago, even when you go to the north side of Chicago, it's shell shock or culture shock. So when you go into a predominantly white situation and you from Chicago, Illinois, you are totally lost. How did you make the adjustments?
I think how I made the adjustments was if anybody's been away to college, once you get into your dorm, the dorm life was something that just blew my mind because, first of all, everybody kept their doors open all the time. I don't think, why everybody leaving their doors open? And what happened is on your floor, your dorm floor, everybody just interacts with one another. Mm-hmm. And I think my residents that was on the same floor with me were from different nationalities. We just started vibing with one another. Mm-hmm. And from there, it was easy for me to transition into vibing with different nationalities into the classroom because of my dorm room floor residents. We gained relationships with each other from different, and that helped a lot.
Yeah. And see, that's the thing, man. Being from Chicago, being from the west side of Chicago, especially, that is something that's totally foreign to me. Do you know I got a college degree? I went to preschool, elementary school, and high school on the west side of Chicago. To this day, I'm 53 years old. Do you know I have never sat in a classroom with someone who wasn't, without the entire classroom being 100% black?
Wow. Yeah.
So that's what I want people to understand. Like, it's not that we're foreigners or we're weirdos or anything of that nature. It's just Chicago's a different place. And when you coming from a place that you only see each other, it does take a bit of adjusting just to be within close proximity of somebody that's not like you. Most of my teachers were black. Yeah. My entire student body my entire academic experience has been black. I've never did this and saw anybody but black boys, girls, ladies, and men. Wow. So that's why I wanted people to see that. And, I'm not saying that this is why Chicago the way it is, but when you see, it's this thing that me and my buddy Craig does. He lives in Arizona. Ironically, you don't get a whole lot whiter than Arizona, but we literally sit down and go, hey, he's from the house. He's from the crib. He's from the crib. He's from the crib. And his friends go, hey, I know y'all right. And then we start saying, well, call them over here. Right. And then they'll go, hey, you from Chicago? They like, yeah. Like, how do y'all know? It's something we know. Yeah. It's just a Chicago thing. You can almost smell Chicago on somebody. Okay. You at NIU, you into weaving yourself into the culture there. What are some of your best experiences up there?
Some of my best experiences at NIU, it was the NIU Black Choir. Like I said, because I was able to really hone my gifts musically. singing with different groups. It was another group of they had a music group down there, like not a quartet, but they had a group down there, an ensemble. They had an ensemble down there. One of our musicians, he had his own ensemble, so they asked me to sing with the ensemble because they saw that I could sing. So I sung with the ensemble down there, in addition to NIU Black Choir. Like I said, I did academic wise. It was amazing to me because the reason that I'm pro college is because to sit in a big, large classroom and learn about things that you had no idea about. And I had no idea about anthropology. I had no idea about Vincent van Gogh, the artist, or John Sebastian Bach, you know, and who was one of the most awesome musicians in the world. I never would have known these things had I not went to college. Well, granted, nowadays the youth got their phones and they got everything right at their phone. They can learn about everything without going to college. Exactly. But the fact that I was able to sit in these classrooms and take classes that I didn't even know what the class was about, but you sit with a counselor and the counselor say you need to take humanities, you need to take this, you need to take that, and these are the classes you could pick from. So I randomly picked some classes and learned things in life that I never knew anything about. That's why I'm pro college, because you get a well-rounded education in life as well as knowledge. And I think that was the biggest thing for me, was learning these things that still stick to me to this day. And then, like I said, I started my road to joining the greatest fraternity, Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity, on campus. I didn't complete down there, but I came back home and I finished up in a graduate chapter. So those experiences, but fraternities, that's another story. You know,
let's get into that.
What experience?
What piqued your interest with the fraternity and sorority universe, and what made you pick Alpha Phi Alpha?
That's a good question too, because the way that I am, I'm actually surprised that I was even attracted to a fraternity, because I was so sports and so music related. But when I saw those guys with the fraternities and the sororities, I guess I love brotherhood. I guess maybe because I never had a brother. It's just me and my sister. Okay. And I have my close Brian Williams and Sean Howard. They are like brothers to me, but they're not my blood brothers. So because I never had a brother, I think when I saw the unity or with the fraternities, it just sparked my interest. And I was like, this looks cool to see them stepping together. And then I did research on them and found out that they was about pro education. That's the true meaning of fraternities. I was like, this is something that seems pretty cool. And of course, when you're young, they got the girls. You know what I mean? So I'm just keeping it real. So I was like, man, if I get those letters in addition to my music gift, it's on, baby. It's on and popping. And so that's what really attracted me to the fraternities. I just believed in the brotherhood because, like I said, I never had a biological brother. And it was an interesting experience. It was.
And again, it goes back to the past of our communities nationwide, the entire Black community. It used to be a brotherhood. It used to be an unofficial fraternity. You know, you speak to people as you walk past them, you would just get a nod and they was letting you know, hey, I'm part of that group. You know, I'm part of your family. And this is what is missing. I personally believe, you know, you don't have to join a fraternity, sorority, community, but it does help because it instills to you that working with people, that you are not on this earth alone and you are here to help people. Again, right back to church, right back to community, God, family, community, brotherhood. Yeah, so I can definitely understand where you're going with that. So now you're at school. You've mentioned a couple times that you didn't finish. Talk to me about that and how do you transition back to Chicago?
You know, and that's a good point as well. That's a great question because like I tell young people all the time, it's not where you start, it's where you finish.
Exactly.
So when I went to NIU, I left school for a couple of reasons, and then I wound up having a child at a younger age. I think I was 22 when I had a child. My oldest daughter named Danielle Allen. But when I went back home to regroup, because my grades wasn't right, I wasn't focused like I should have been. I went back home, I had a child, but I still had to. My mother was strict, but she loved me to death, and she still spoiled me. but yet she still didn't play with me either.
Yeah.
So she was like, "You gonna get yourself together." And I told her, I said, "You know what, Mom? I promise you, you're gonna get a degree out of me. I ain't gonna sit up here and waste your money and your time. You're gonna get a degree. I may have messed up down at NIU, but I'm gonna get it together." So here I am, circle of life. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna get my GPA up. I'm gonna go to a junior college. Came home, went to Wright College, just taking general ed classes to get my GPA up, knowing I'm gonna go back to a university again. I said, well, Wright College got a baseball team.
A very good one too.
I said, do tell. While I'm getting myself together, I'm 20, 21 years old at that point. I said, I'm gonna join. I tried out for the baseball team, made the baseball team, played 2 years at Wright College. So what that did, once again, it wasn't so much about the baseball. It was about, I would put myself in an environment that nurtured my confidence to get myself together and get back on track. So once I played the 2 years at Wright College, I went to Chicago State University, and that's when I got my degree simultaneously when I became the police. Yeah.
What pushed you in that direction? Oh, you know what? Before you answer that question, we run in parallel because I told my mother the same thing. You know, like you said, you know, when like I always tell people, between the age about 14 and 24, all you know is girls, what you want to do, and eating. You know, so I could definitely identify with things are not going the way you want to go, but that nurturing mother, like I don't think I was spoiled. I don't think because my mother, like your mother, was a drill sergeant. She didn't play no games. Yeah. But again, you knew, you know, like I always tell people, I don't even remember my mother ever saying, "I love you, Brian," but her actions said, "I love you, Brian." And anytime I think, I don't have one bad memory of my mother. Even the whoopings end up being like, I did need that.
Yeah, I needed it.
Yeah. You should hit me 4 more times. So yeah. I can definitely understand that. And that bond between mother and son and father and daughter is paramount in our community. You know, we get in these situations to whereas people are, well, she shouldn't have had a baby by that guy, or he shouldn't. But what we need to do is focus on these little people that are on their way and make sure they get that same love that we got.
Yeah, absolutely.
And with that being said, I want to talk about the transition between Chicago State University and CPD. How did that go about?
Yeah. I'm gonna push rewind too. You did ask me about what prompted me to become the police while I was at NIU. Okay. It was a weird situation because a lot of the music department people that I hung around at NIU and a lot of the brothers, Alpha Phi fraternity, I talked about being in law enforcement, and they was like, "Why would you want to be in law enforcement when you have a musical gift?" I was like, you know, for some reason, I felt the need to want to help people in law enforcement. And I was also excited about the cops and robbers thing. That just excited me. I don't know why it did, but it did. And that's why I wanted to get in law enforcement, because of that life. They're just excited. Law enforcement just seemed to excite me. And I think that's what did it. That's what transitioned me into law enforcement.
Wow, you wanted, because you know what? Again, this is one of the bigger reasons I asked you to come on, because of your career. I know the great things that you've done, but you know what, we've had dozens of conversations. I've never asked you why you wanted to be the police. I want you, even before we get into the rest of your story, I want you to encourage people about joining the police, because on my community empowerment show on Tuesdays, I always say, if you're sick of the police mistreating you, why don't you join them? Because as you are on the west side of Chicago, I've just drove past and saw you at the academy.
Yeah.
Adams. You know, hey, what's up, Dan? And I want you to let these young people who will watch this know, and even our older people who will watch this know, why it's important for people that look like you and I to join, not only work in concert with the police, but get on the police force, because of what the position that you can hold and the effect that you can have on the community.
I'm gonna tell you, that's a solid point that you touched upon, because I know a lot of people have negative feelings about law enforcement, and rightfully so in some cases, because there's some police officers who did some stupid things, and I'm gonna boldly say that because I'm a lieutenant of police. They did some stupid things that caused. And the other reason why I say that is because I was a community policing sergeant for 9 years. And then when I made lieutenant, I kept going working in the community. And the reason that our minorities don't want to be the police is because what they see on TV, the negative things that happen on TV. And that's what's causing the division with the police and young people. The reason that I solicit young people to become to the police is because when I think about when I was a tactical officer and I was running and gunning and chasing these guys up and down the street, some of my best arrests came. Well, I'm gonna say when I say best arrests, I mean my most fruitful arrest came was because there was a senior or there was a adult person on the street who look at me and they give me a sign with a head movement or whatever, be like, that's the person you're looking at right there. Now, the reason that they did that to me was because I had a relationship with these people. Meaning that when I say a relationship, I wasn't in community policing back then. I was running and gunning. But when during my patrols, I tell officers all the time, get out the car, speak to people. As the police, I was playing clothes from half of my career. Get out the car. If you see an older lady taking some groceries to the car, get out that police car and take the groceries upstairs for her. Say, ma'am, is it okay if I take your groceries upstairs for you? That's community policing. That's what makes the community want to have conversations with you and have trust with you. And I tell people all the time, you can be that type of police officer. And that's what's going to make people talk with you and converse with you and share information that you will need to make their neighborhood safer. And that's what policing is at now. You know, the running and gunning and jumping off roofs, tackling people, that's over with. That's over with. We got body worn cameras now, and and when an officer does any type of action where there's something that's dealing with a physical altercation, the officer got to articulate, why did this happen? Why did you initially stop that person? You got to articulate everything. And the sergeants and lieutenants have to look at the body worn cameras and justify, yeah, this officer was in compliance. He did justifiably do what he needed to do. So there's a lot of culpability in law enforcement, which a lot of older heads look at it like, there's no point to being the police no more. But no, I had to adjust and say, you know what? This is making everything safer for the community and for the police.
You know what? I can totally, everything you said, I can walk right lockstep in with it because the guy Ray Shannon at Westside Vocational High School, he's still alive. He's a good brother. He's a police officer. He's my frost-off football coach. He made one of my oldest friends in the world, Rail Shaw. He made a wonderful impact on us. First period, sophomore year. And I remember there was a child molestation scandal at Westinghouse. It was at Westinghouse and Collins. And people in the school joking about it. Man, that dude closed that door and read us the riot act. So again, this is community policing. He's bringing it to our attention. Don't you laugh at the pain of someone else. This is not a joking matter. Another thing, one of my very oldest friends, Patrick Curser, he's in a chat room, and he can remember this. There was these two younger police officers on the near north side of Chicago. We used to call them 21. What we call one of them 21 Jump Street, one of them Eddie Murphy, because they were both young and black, and like you said, they were running and gunning. And it's this documentary on YouTube where they say their first day on the job, it was this gang activity, and the dude stopped and put his gun on the hood of their car and shot at somebody on the hood of a police car. Wow. So this is the environment we're growing up in. And they used to harass me, my man Big Illinois, and my man Drastic every day. Every time they say, "What y'all doing?" They were on our butts every day. When we became adults, though, they pulled us up. They ran up on us. I don't know if Big Illinois was with us, but they pulled up on me and Drastic and said, "Hey, man, how y'all doing?" And we like, "Oh, here we go." They was like, "Nah. We knew y'all wasn't up to nothing. So we wanted y'all to know we watching you just in case anything, just in case you had any thoughts." We were like, "Oh, wow." And again, man, this is what's missing. And like you said, and because it's a communal thing, you don't have to say it's him, but all you have to do is go,
Yep.
And then that connection that we have, that soul tie that we have, oh, it's him. Okay, I'm gonna go around the block and then come back around,
Right.
and I'm
Exactly.
gonna get you when they
Yeah.
go in the house. I'm getting you. So yeah,
Exactly.
man, and this is the very reason my dad was my parents were Black Panthers. So everybody assumed that I hate white people, one, and they assume I hate the police. And I'm not gonna lie to you, Dan. I've had some horrible run-ins with the police, but again, we must get to the point whereas this is not an army that's against us. These are people who are working with us, and then maybe some of those fools will dissipate, and we'll have more good quality people on the force, and some of those rough and rugged tactics will dissipate and get rid of things. How you mentioned you were on task force and things of that nature. Talk to me about how when she came out to the academy, what was your impression? What was going on in your mind, and then how you matriculated to the task force.
I think once I came out the academy, I observed officers that were in plain clothes. Officer that's in plain clothes was considered, for lack of a better word, aggressive officers who seek after the violent offenders in the community, wanted gang members, or we call them top 10 targets, to try to get guns and dope off the street. I fell in love with that because I was fast. I was always a good one. I had good speed for being an athlete, and also I fell in love with that. I said, if I'm gonna be the police, I want to make a difference. I don't want to just be a patrol officer just driving around. I'm not knocking patrol officers, because patrol is the backbone of the police department. But for me, I've always been a type of person that if I'm gonna be involved with something, I want to be top tier. I'm not just in the middle. I'm just not that guy. I'm not a middle guy. I got to be in some type of either leadership role, or I'm hanging out with the leaders. That was just me. And when I really, because of my background of living in North Lawndale, by being a police, when I observed that the people that was terrorizing the community were the ones that was selling narcotics, the ones that was selling guns, and was loitering and was disrespecting our seniors. As an example, they will sell narcotics on the street. Like in the Westside, we call it an open air drug market, which means they sell, just stand outside and say,
right.
Rocks blows, park.
Yeah.
And if there's an elderly person who is walking down the street, I have heard stories where they have tell elderly people, they will swear at them and say, get out the way. We're making this money. I took that personal. I said, you know what? You're not going to disrespect our people, not when I'm out here. So I said, you know what? I'm going to be a part of the tactical team. So back then, to be a part of the tactical team where they're playing close, you had to show that you had that resilience as a blue and white officer in uniform by making arrests and being visible and just making some great things happen. And I got awarded to go work on the TAC team, and that's how that. And from there, I fell in love with the narcotic game. Maybe I was looking at too much TV, I don't know, but Narco was movies like that or whatever. Miami Vice. So I fell in love with the narcotic game, and that was my claim to fame back then, because violence stemmed from narcotics, and my heart was to help reduce violence. So narcotics was something that that's what I got involved with. Boy, did I love working in narcotics.
You know what? What year was this? Because I got a couple questions about that.
That was between like 94 and 99 when I was working in the tactical unit. Then I went to narcotics around the year 2000 until about 2006.
Okay, I'm glad. I was thinking it was around that time, and the reason I was asking is that was the heart of the whole drug. The immersing of crack cocaine in the street, heroin, just powder cocaine. This is when drugs were taking over the universe in the Black community. The Black community was being flooded in Baltimore, Detroit, Chicago, Gary, St. Louis, Kansas City, Milwaukee. What is it like in the midst of that? Because now, when you started policing, I'm assuming you got 38s and what they used to call Saturday night specials.
Yeah.
As you get into this, you got semi-automatic weapons.
Yes.
What's going on in your mind with that?
Well, in the 90s, the violence was at an all-time high.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if people remember, but in the 90s, like between like 94 to like 2000, violence was insane. That's when the guns called Lorsons became the popular guns that, like you said, the automatic weapons that guys was carrying was Lorsons and Taurus.
Mm-hmm.
Those were the guns that we used to inventory, used to get off guys all the time and inventory. The gang wars, the West Side is just different. They're into gangs, but they're into making money. And money, so you can have guys from different gangs who will work together, especially if they're family members. My cousin is a GD and I'm a vice lord. We still gonna work over here and make this money together. But my thing was, once again, was seeing our community victimized. That's what bothered me. And I had an innate ability to do undercover work, filter in with the community. When there was a shooting, I was to be the type, I can talk freely now because it's over with. I was the type that if there was a shooting, I'd take off my vest and put on a hat and a scarf or something and just stand with the crowd and start conversing with people. And find out, hey man, who did that shooting, man? Let's show you did it. Straight up. And they won't even put two and two together who I am.
Right. Right. Because and again, this is why we need to have more police officers. Because if it's just imagine, I don't know how many men and women on the police force today, but just imagine if you had, like, I'm from what they call the Village, and then you got the Rockwell Henry Horner section, then you got the East Lawndale section, then you got the Lawndale section, then the North Lawndale section, the K-Town. Just imagine if you had 5 Dan Allens in each one of those sections.
Right.
It's far more far less violence than we had. And no disrespect to your profession, but I remember being, for whatever reason, being a young black man during that period, I had people in my family participating in the drug trade, and you don't necessarily participate in it, but for whatever reason, you just had a bird's eye view of it. I'm enough to be standing out there. One of the most embarrassing moments of my life, again, going back to those black teachers at these black institutions with all these black children in this family, the most outside of, I got other, but arguably the most embarrassing moment of my life is I was sitting in the midst of a bunch of drug dealers. Like you said, they hollering out rocks, blows, paw, letting you know we got the drugs, park right there. We're gonna bring it to you for those who are outside of Chicago.
Right.
I'm in the midst of that, right? And Miss Johnson, my 3rd grade teacher, first person I ever had a crush on, Miss Johnson, walked out of that school, and I'm sitting there in the midst of all my friends selling drugs, and she said, "Oh my God!" I was like, "Oh, Miss Johnson!" I was so embarrassed, and she just held up her hand. She was just crushed, and I never hung out that crew again. But I was just like,
right.
But again, back to the point. If we had more people, the reason I got there is in that community, you had a bunch of white officers beating up people and extorting people and robbing people. I literally saw this one white cop. We used to call him Larry Bird. I don't know if he's still on the force or not, but his name, Larry. Well, we used to call him Larry. I don't know what his name was. And Larry Bird, literally, I saw him walk up to somebody and say, "Hey, you can give me what's in that pocket, or I can give you what's in this pocket. But if I give you what's in this pocket, you going away with me." And then the dude gave him his money, and it was just, and instead of policing, you out here getting rich. You know what I mean? But to combat that, I also remember the burnout cell phone craze. But that would probably be a what is that? What's that? Vice. That would probably be a vice situation. I remember 2 police officers walking up to this dude that I knew, and he used to make the burnout phones. Yeah. And he was like, "Oh my God, he got a bag full of these phones, so he got fed time on his hand." Yeah. And the officer said, "Hey man, we not here for no phones. We here for the guns. If you can get us some guns, you can keep those phones. We just want the guns off the street." So again, this is a Dan Allen type versus a dude out here trying to get rich.
Yeah, absolutely.
So again, continue to tell me about how, you at task force, and I remember it was Task Force Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken. A lot of my friends got arrested on Tuesdays. People like, hey man, go in the house on Tuesday because they coming.
Yeah.
How do you avoid violent situations when you are task force? People know you coming, and like you said, it's about the money at this point. Talk to me.
Well, it's hard to avoid violent situations. I'm gonna say that much because I was in the tactical unit when I was in narcotics. That was different because I was more undercover. Mm-hmm. So, but when I was working tactical unit, plain clothes, we was after the guys with guns and dope. Mm-hmm. So a lot of encounters wasn't the best encounters. People didn't want to go back to jail, so they would fight you. I was blessed to have a situation where nobody tried to shoot me. Mm-hmm. Well, I was in the middle of a shootout once or twice, but never intentionally at me. But mostly with me, it was just guys who just didn't want to go back to jail, and they would just try to fight to get away, which was kind of right up my alley because I was from 16th Street and we played a lot of football. You know what I mean? So it all tied into my past. So to me, it was kind of fun.
Yeah, man. Cats on 16th Street was no punks.
Because growing up on 16th Street, like you said, I wasn't in a gang, but I had a bird's eye view. So some of the guys that were like gang leaders on my block, I grew up with, but I didn't get into the gang because I was in church, I was in music, I was in the sports, but yet they still made sure that I knew how to throw hands too. So it was times I came home from church and baseball practice, and they would just mess with me. These guys I grew up with. I'd be like, why y'all messing with me? I'm supposed to be y'all little brother. No, they used to give me hickeys sometimes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because they wanted to make sure I was tough. You know what I'm saying? And we used to call it play fighting, but that play fighting didn't look like play fighting to me when I think about it.
Yeah, there wasn't nothing playing about it.
We're not playing about it. It just so they was just sometimes just attack me. And these couple of guys who were considered my play cousins. One of my guys was the chief on 16th Street. Used to constantly sick guys on me. And back then I used to be like, man, why you keep doing? I knew why he was doing it, but I was like, stop, it's irritating. And I'm beating half of them. Yeah. And the other half choking me out. Yeah. So it was always the 2 or 3 guys I couldn't do nothing with. You know what I mean? But at the end, when I wound up working for Cook County, before I worked for I worked for Cook County Jail before I went to Chicago Police. I saw him in there. And I said, why did you used to do that, man? Why used to sit guys on me all the time? He said, because I want to make sure you wasn't no punk. He said, because with the rival gang caught you, my job was to make sure that you know how to fight good enough to get away if need be. Mm-hmm. So all of that, not to say I was a tough guy, but it made me not be a punk. You know what I'm saying? I ain't no Van Diesel or nobody, but it made me not be a punk. Mm-hmm. So when I became the police, for me to be hands-on with somebody who was a violent offender, to me, it felt like 16th Street all over again. Yeah. I was like, let's go. Let's get it. You know what I mean? So, yeah. And I think the police, and I think a lot of people of different nationalities had similar backgrounds where they was Italian, you know, they had to put hands on with each other all the time, and African American, Hispanic. And that's why my generation of policing, we were able to de-escalate more so without being called de-escalating than now, because we was used to those hands-on experience. You know, a guy pulling his hand for me and make swing on me. And to me, I thought it was kind of fun. I was like, here we go. You know, unless it was some big muscular dude, and I'd be like, hey man, I need help over here. I can't take this dude. That's why there's a police force.
Hey man, you took me back when you said I had a couple hickeys, and you know, on the east side of that, we used to call them maybe knots. Maybe they'll go away, maybe it won't. They're gonna be on your head for a little while. Yeah, man. Hey, you want to answer that question right there?
I used to always have to fight on 16th Street, man. They called it play fighting.
Yeah, I wasn't not playing about it.
You're not playing about
it all day.
Yeah, but that helped me though.
Most definitely. You want to answer that question right there?
What happened to Officer Friendly? I love when he came to the school to visit the children. So Officer Friendly was a program called the Great Program, Great and Dare. where they used to come into the schools, they would read books to kids and things of that sort. So now community policing, called CAPS, community, I forgot the acronym there, but it's community policing. In every district in the city of Chicago has an office where they have officers that's dedicated to just doing community stuff. So those officers right now are the ones that go into the schools and they engage with different activities with young people. So even for me, what I do as a community lieutenant, I will go into schools. I talk to principal and say, you know what? I want to sit down and do peace circles. A lot of officers are peace circle trained. I want to do peace circles with the kids. And I also want to do scenarios with them so they can see, to make sure that we have better and safer encounters with police and the youth. Oh, so that's what I do now, because I started my own consultant company. And that's one of the things that I do now. And that's what the police department does through community policing. So community policing is the one that took over the officers coming into the schools.
Yeah, man. You know, I never understand. You know, I do remember that dude. It was always an older white guy show up at the school and be like, hey, I'm officer friendly. And we'd be like, yeah.
Yeah.
We know, we've seen you friendly. Yeah. It's funny. It takes me back to my freshman year in high school, and it was a social studies class, and the teacher asked, what do police do? And Victor Wilson said, shoot people.
Wow. Wow.
And then, if Cass is in there like, yeah, that's what they do. And she was like, no. I was like, hey, you need to come on my block. That's what they're doing over there. Yeah. Okay, you're in this task force, you elevating. As a police officer, how do you move up the ladder? Is it test to take, or is it time period? Help the people who want their children. If we may be inspiring somebody who to tell their children this is something that's an option for you. What are some of the benefits as well?
You know what? I'm glad you asked that question, because I'm gonna push rewind a little bit. When I was working as a tactical officer in the 15th district, we had a scandal in the 15th district with some officers who did some things that I'm not proud of. But the commander at the time was like, that's how I wound up going to narcotics. He was like, hey, your whole career you've been in 15th district on the west side. I said, yeah. He said, you need to venture out and learn more about this job. Chicago police is a huge police department. And I was like, learn what? I'm playing clothes. I get to chase people and wrestle, and this is make overtime for it. This is pretty cool. It took an African American commander who was on his way getting promoted to a specialized unit to say, I want you to come with me, because he believed in my work ethic.
Okay.
So that's why I instill officers in the 11th district, where I'm at now, to try to look at other things, look at other possibilities. So what happened was, when I went to the unit with him, special operations section, but I told him my love is narcotics. I love drug game. He said, I help you get to narcotics. When I got to narcotics was when I started observing people who wanted to move up the ladder. Mm-hmm. People wanted to get promoted. So people was working hard, trying to build these big cases. Narcotic was like a prima donna unit. Mm-hmm. It was like work. It was like being on the Lakers. Everybody's a prima donna. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's playing with LeBron and sitting courtside. You know what I mean? So narcotics was a prima donna unit. But I started observing people who wanted to go up the ladder. And there's the process to get promoted to sergeant and detective in Chicago Police is to take an exam. But there also, if you don't do well on the exam, there's another way to make it called merit. What merit's supposed to be is based upon your work ethic and your work performance. And then you submit a packet when it's time for a class to be promoted, and your packet should have enough fruitful activity in there in your packet to show, this is why this person may not have done well on a test, but their work ethic and their background makes them a good candidate to get promoted through the merit process. So you can make it either through the test process or through the merit process. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, man. And these are the things that again, the police force, I encourage people to join the fire department, the police force, because everyone, we've both experienced college life. We both have degrees, but everybody isn't an academic. And I always encourage people, hey, there are other opportunities out there for you. And the police department is an opportunity. It's not just go beat up somebody and slam people on cars. This is a situation to whereas people can matriculate through a career and make something of themselves and a difference in our community. Because if you are wondering why our community is under duress, it's because you have people who don't understand, again, those nuances, like connecting with someone. They don't say a word, but you know exactly what they're saying. Those are the things that are missing because these people don't know us. They don't know our idiosyncrasies. They don't know what we do, how we communicate. And then you're subject to their ignorance. You agree?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
So now you're a sergeant. It's officer, task force, sergeant, lieutenant, detective, lieutenant, or how does it go?
So some people just want to make detective. When you're a patrolman, in the blue and white uniform, the next phase up is either a detective, what the ones wear the shirt and ties and they solve cases, or you can try to become a sergeant. So for me, I wanted to be a sergeant because I felt like I had done enough work with my background to be. I felt like I could be a good leader, to lead troops into doing good police work, solid police work. So I did. I made sergeant in 2006. I was with narcotics, and I went to narcotics. I went to DEA task force. So they have task force where police officers in Chicago can work with different federal agencies such as ATF, DEA, FBI. So I went to the DEA task force because, like I said, drugs was my thing back then. Narcotics was my love. And from there, I was with DEA task force doing some cases, working some federal cases, looking for top targets that was like terrorizing the community. That's what the DEA task force was concentrating on. And from there, I took the sergeant's exam. I got promoted to sergeant. When I left the DEA task force, I had my own car. I had weekends off. We still work weekends when we had to work cases. Next thing you know, I made sergeant. I get sent back to the 15th district where I came from, which was a blessing. And I'm on midnights driving around on midnight. And I said, what the heck did I do? Am I dumb? I had the weekends off. How you doing, Andrea? I had the weekends off, so now I'm driving around on midnights with this white shirt on. Can't stay woke. I hate midnights. I was so upset at myself for taking this promotion. But because I was just younger and I didn't understand that was just the start. When you get promoted, you have to start all over again by seniority. That's why I really didn't want to make lieutenant, because I made lieutenant later in life. And I was like, I'm too old to be starting over again, working midnights and working crazy days off. I don't want to do that no more. But that's what happened. I made sergeant. And shortly after that, I went back to a couple of specialized units that I came from, and I was able to impart some of my skill set into the officers. But then my claim to fame was really community policing, even though that wasn't my background. That was my background with my personal organization. Me and my wife, Victoria, we had Divine Purpose Youth Performing Arts Center.
And that's exactly what I was going to go to next.
Yes. And how I wound up in community policing was because of that. The commander at the time of the 11th district, the opening came open for a community policing sergeant. And because I came back to the 11th district because the units that I was in had broke up. So they sent me back to the 11th district just on patrol. And the commander said, I hear that you do community stuff. He said, I only know you for doing drugs and guns and stuff. You a community guy? So I tell him a different side to me.
Okay.
He said, you sing and write songs and you do stuff for youth? I said, yeah, that's really my passion, to be honest with you. He was like, I want you to be in community policing. And that's how I got in community policing. The good thing about me being in community policing, Divine Purpose Youth Performing Arts Center was in the same district where the 11th district is at. So I was able to commingle some things professionally.
Okay, let's take you back a few steps because I know we were at the Divine Purpose way before you were even a sergeant. Let's go there. What triggered the Divine Purpose Music and Performing Arts Center?
My wife, Victoria Allen, she gets most of the credit for the inception of Divine Purpose. My wife, what was I doing then? I think I was maybe I was in narcotics at the time when it started. I was just doing undercover work, and my wife was like, you know what? My wife teach dance because she taught one of the best youth dance teams in the city of Chicago, the Christ Tabernacle Praise Dancers, where they were doing stuff all over the city. They were amazing dancers. So my wife said, you know what? I want to start my own organization, and I want to have my own dancers. And I said, go ahead, go and start it, baby. So she started, and it was called Divine Purpose Dancers. That's how the name originally started. And I said, you know what? Me and my play brother, Brian Williams, we want to start a choir. And she was like, well, why would you do it? I do a dance team and you do a choir separately, and we husband and wife. That don't make sense. Let's bring it together. Mm-hmm. And when we brought it together was when it was called Divine Purpose Ministries. That's how it started.
Okay.
So as we started, and what we would do back then, we would go to different churches and different schools and just do shows. Mm-hmm. And then we put together a choir. She had a dance team, and we would just go do shows. That's how it started. But then I met with a professional. I was trying to write grants too back then because we started our 501c3, and I had no success at getting grants. I sat down and met with a professional. She was like, first of all, your name is Divine Purpose Ministries. Are you a church? I said, no, we're an organization, a youth organization, but we're faith-based. She said, if you're not a church, take ministries out of your name, which is how it became Divine Purpose Youth Performing Arts Center. That's how that happened. And from there, we got our own facility on Grand. And from there, it just took off.
Okay. Let's talk about the Center on Grand. This is when I met you. You know, my family was going to church with Joe. You know, I wasn't going to church. I'm in church now. I'm a deacon at the church now, but I was so far away from the church at that point. Let's talk about that. You know, that's how my family met your family, my children hanging out with your children. Let's talk about that. What's going on there?
So now me and my wife are like, okay, Divine Purpose Youth Performing Arts Center is in full effect. We are official 501c3. I said, but we need a facility to host these things that we're doing, which is really performing arts. So we wind up finding a facility at 6326 West Grand, which was like right down the street from my house, right? I could crawl there. It was that close to my house. And from there, my wife, once again, she gets all the credit, man, because what she did was put together an after school program where it was based upon arts. And because I'm still an athletic guy, I brought in different guys to do sports things as well. So now so all of this is a full circle. I said, you know what? This reminds me of Christ Tabernacle. This reminds me of my background at Christ Tabernacle on the Reverend Milton Bronson. You have a music element and you have a sports element. So from there, we had about 60 kids, as you can remember, Brian. Mm-hmm. We had a whole bunch of kids on Grand, and we put together an amazing after school and summer program for fine arts. And that's what happened. And it was, and violence, by me being the police, there was always a violence prevention initiative and a mentoring initiative that took place just naturally.
Yeah, man, and this is the beauty in the situation. I remember walking in them places sometimes, and you could just feel the love. My kids would come home, they were overjoyed. Hey, Dan, I ain't gonna lie, man. A couple of times I was jealous of you because BJ come home, Dan. I'm like,
that's the kind of Dan.
I'm sick of Dan, man. Yeah, but man. You know, it was a beautiful situation, man. You taught BJ technology, you taught BJ the keyboards. It was a wonderful, loving environment, man. And this, you in a roundabout way, you kind of inspired me to, just me and BJ be talking about certain things. And I used to do when I created this program initially, the End of the Bench. It was about talking about sports because. When I used to always say you up 30, and you can relate to this. You up 30, you on the end of the bench talking to your friends about that girl, the game you saw last night or whatever. Yeah, you down 30, doing the same thing. 30 seconds to go, you talking sports. So
Yeah.
that's why I ended the bench. And so, I started talking about community empowerment simply because of things like that. Again, me and BJ talking. We're talking about the good old days, divine purpose, man. Again, I want to thank you for those things, man, because you probably saved dozens of lives. You actually got my son. Even when I got into the church, when I got into the Word of God, BJ started going to church. He's like, I'm gonna go to church with you then. I was like, wow, because I think his name was Baskin.
James Baskin. That was
Baskin. He had passed away. So BJ was like, hey man, I'm gonna go to church with you. So again, man, thank you and your organization for the guy, the structure you provided for these young people. And the beautiful thing is, this is when BJ was 14, 15 years old, and he still communicates with these young people to this day.
Yes.
Something again that is missing. This is what's missing. We are no longer, we live through this. This thing right here, we living through it. We talk to each other via text. We talk to each other via Facebook. We don't go places and interact and commingle. So everybody is a stranger.
Yeah.
So now you got the divine purpose. You're moving up in the police department. What's next?
So of course, with divine purpose, we hit a snag financially. So we lost the facility that we were at on Grand. Me and my wife both devastated, right. Triple double Cook County police. I wish. I'm more of a football and baseball guy, but I can shoot. I can hoop a little bit. So now we lost our facility on Grand. So now we're looking at it like, God, is this meant for us to do? And then, we're looking at other people's success. We're looking at the Boys and Girls Club. We're looking at all these different organizations that has all these fruitful youth programs. And here we are, all the grind that we've done for all these years, and we felt like nobody really believed in us. We felt like no elected officials was going to sow into us. So we kind of just went on a hiatus. But the hiatus was much briefer than what we thought it would be. Mm-hmm. Because of my community policing background, a lot of people felt our pain and was like, you know what? You need to be in West Garfield anyway. Mm-hmm. So several churches and organizations was like, bring divine purpose into our building and just partner with us in West Garfield. So I shared with my wife, and of course she was like, I don't know, because we lost our spot on Grand. We feel like we lost everything. Mm-hmm. But I got to give credit to Pastor Sam's and New Evangelical Bible Church and Evelyn, his daughter Evelyn, opened up their doors to us to partner and bring our organization back in West Garfield. And then we moved from there to where we're currently at to this day with Bishop Todd Whitley, David Whitley, from Corinthian Temple, with United for Better Living, who my wife, Divine Purpose United for Better Living, now has got a partnership with each other for the past few years, been doing some amazing things together in West Garfield. The struggle to this day is when the youth that was like our kids' age were more open to artist type of things. The kid, like you mentioned, the cell phone. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, getting kids to be proactive in after school programming, you got to come up with a very solid plan, and it has to be youth led to get them to be a part of your program. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we understand that, and so that's what we're doing right now. But I'm gonna tell you, Divine Purpose Youth Performing Arts Center is doing some amazing things in West Garfield right now. We had to regroup, but we are doing some amazing things, boy. Some amazing things. We did a concert at the K-Ron Center, which is a hidden gem in the Austin community on Washington and Central. This place is a state-of-the-art concert facility. We packed the place out, and it holds like 900 people. I think we might have got like 500 people there. 2 Christmas concerts in 2012 and 2013, 2023 and 2022. Mm-hmm. So our initiatives now is about collaborating and doing some great things with other organizations. So when I made lieutenant, I was about to retire from the police department in 2022. Okay. Next thing I know is people tell me, hey, Dan, your name is on the list I said, the list for what? The list to be a lieutenant. I said, no, it's not, because I'm about to retire. They was like, they want you to be a lieutenant. Your name is on the list. You start class next week. I said, I start class next week. Real talk. That's what happened.
Wow.
So I got notified July of 2022 that you're about to be a lieutenant, and class starts that following Monday. I didn't even have a weekend to think about it, because I was like, oh my God. So I'm excited about all the things Divine Purpose is doing. We started another adult organization called Chicago Arts Alliance that's geared towards adults and violence prevention. We got some good things going on. I said, I can't be a lieutenant. That's gonna get in the way. But when you believe in God and you trust in God, He got you. You got
Amen.
You. And that's where we at right now. We got a second organization geared towards adults in conjunction with Divine Purpose, and we're doing some amazing things in West Garfield.
Talk to me before that. This is your buddy BJ.
Like, goddamn, yeah.
Yeah, see, I'm still jealous. No, I'm just playing. But yeah, hey, talk to me about that, man.
Which one?
The new
Okay.
branch of your organizational tree.
Yeah, so Divine Purpose, like I said, is geared towards young adults and youth, and Divine Purpose and United for Better Living regrouped. They're doing some great things in West Garfield. So a couple of people approached me and asked me, hey, are you interested in starting an alliance dealing with arts because you're a music person? I was like, no, not really, because after what we went through with Divine Purpose, the struggles of that and rebounding, think I want to get another organization? No way, Jose. And they was like, no, start an alliance where you can be the leader of other non-for-profits or people that want to start a non-for-profit and see where that takes you. And it could be in the arts. So we met with a group. We did like a little focus group, and we came up with this long name, Chicago Cultural Performing Arts Alliance. And basically, I accepted the calling. And what I did was I went after people that didn't necessarily have organizations, but they had an ideal, or they just started the organization. Okay. I said, those are the people I'm willing to put under the umbrella, because I know they'll listen to me, because they know, they see what I've done, what me and Victoria has done. So what the Alliance is in a nutshell is a fine arts organization. The goal is to do, to bring training for people in the community on artistry. But what wind up happening is some people believed in what my vision and said, you know what, you need to get into violence prevention, because you already doing it when you was a cap sergeant. So add a violence prevention initiative to your Alliance organization. Okay. So we did that. So we had to restructure some things so that we can provide case management, victim services, outreach, and still maintain our fine arts mission. And now we are working with the Department of Human Services to do the violence prevention and victim services, as well as providing fine arts. And what we do in the summer months, we do a lot of pop-up events. I find out where the shootings are happening at. We go set up camp. Same thing I was doing as a community policing sergeant. I'm pretty much doing it with the Chicago Arts Alliance.
Oh man, that's awesome. That's awesome. And see, I'm glad, I didn't even know that portion, and I'm glad I'm having you on here, because, with the work that I do on Tuesday, talking about community empowerment, talking about how we need to get, how we need to work together, lock arms, and fight against the madness, because it's far more Lieutenant Dan's and Brian's and other people like Pastor Dodd, my pastor, Pastor Dodd, and others that are in the community who are willing to do things, and it's far less people participating in nefarious activities. We need to shine a spotlight on these things, because you let people tell the only time black people do something is when the police hurt them, or when black people shoot each other, we don't do anything. And you are the dictionary definition, you are the antithesis of that statement, and you're the dictionary definition of what we need done. So I'm glad I was able to shine a spotlight on that. How can people reach out to your organization? Either A, join, B, be a part of it, C, offer donations, because I know, hey, nothing is free in this world, and we need to put, instead of, maybe we don't need to buy a new iPhone, maybe we need to send Dan $50 and get things taken care of. How can people come be a part of this and get and help you with this, and or just be a part of the mission? and be members of your organization?
I just put it in the chat. It's a website called www.divinepurposeyouth.org. Hope I spelled it.
I'm gonna put it on the screen.
I'm gonna put the second organization too.
Put it on the screen. You did that in the private chat, but
okay, I'm sorry.
I'll put it in.
I did. Okay.
Yep, I'll put it on there. Don't worry. Okay. Yeah, man, because I get tired of people always saying, man, we don't ever do this and we don't ever do that. And I know that, and you're not the only person, but people, it's easy to find out who got shot last night on Halsted. It's easy to find out who did something nefarious, who attempted to kill somebody. Because the news, they're gonna tell it on Fox, they're gonna tell it on CLTV, they're gonna tell it everywhere you can look, you can find it. And then I remember one night it kind of upset me that I was watching the news, and on Fox they said somebody got shot on the 4,000 block of Madison. And they was like, somebody got shot 100 South on Pulaski. And I'm like, that's the same shooting. They're reporting it like it's two different places. That's the same corner. Right. You on Pulaski and you on Madison. You're going to say it was on Madison and Pulaski. Now, the nation is hearing 2 people got shot. And it's like, no, that's the same shooting. They just set up in 2 different places. Yes. So, and to understand what you're doing and understand what's going on, I really appreciate you doing these things and letting the people know what's going on. I do, as we wrap up, I do want you to stay on simply, and I just put it in the traditional chat. And damn, we can do that, and then it's on the screen. I'll remove it. So when you watch this, you can go to both of those. You can go to Divine Purpose Youth org, and you can go to www.ccpama.org and support. Join the fight and be a part of repairing our communities. Now, what's down the pipe? And again, thank you for being on, so we can continue to support you, your organizations. And I do, before we close out, as we close out, I do want you to come. I want you to go after we end the show, because I've got a couple questions for you.
Okay, you broke up. You want me to do what again? I'm sorry.
I want you to explain what's coming down the pipe.
What's going
on.
Yeah.
So we can, what's next, what we can be waiting for, what we can expect. And I also want you to stay on after I end the show, because I got a couple questions for you.
Okay, cool. So with Divine Purpose, so both websites, if you click on, if people click on both those websites, they will see the events. So Divine Purpose, during spring break, we're doing the CPS spring break, as I believe, from like between March 25th to the 29th, I believe. We're doing a youth fine arts camp during CPS spring break. Divine Purpose and United for Better Living is sponsoring a spring break where they're going to have field trips. They're going to have a fine arts workshop. All of that is going on during that week. The youth can register, go on that website, and they can register for the fine arts workshop. It's right there on the website. The other event www.ccpama is doing, we're hosting a violence prevention gala. The violence prevention gala is going to be April 6th. If you go to our website, you can click on the link where it says violence prevention gala, and then you can actually purchase tickets. The tickets is just $50. It's going to be dinner, live entertainment. The goal of the violence prevention gala is to show collaborative efforts with different violence prevention partners and what's to come in the summer. So we're really being a conduit for all the different organizations that's doing all this great violence prevention work. And also people to see that the Alliance, we're more than just singers and dancers and actors. We are violence prevention leaders as well, too. And that's the reason that we're doing the gala. And that's all it is on the website.
All right, man. Thanks again, Dan, man. It's wonderful. For one, it's wonderful to reconnect with you. It's wonderful what you're doing. I want to thank you for all the people in our community, all the people in the city, and you doing God's work. And like I tell all my guests, you worked your whole life to be a starter, and now you're on the end of the bench. Anytime you want to promote something, reach out to me. we can come on. You come on Tuesday and promote. You can come on, or we can do a rebirth of this. We can reintroduce you and show the people how to support you in the city of Chicago and abroad. Or you can inspire people to do exactly what you're doing so they can help their cities. It's the same when you go to an HBCU. It's only one HBCU. It's just different campuses. It's only one Black community. We just in different locations. Thank you for being on, Dan. Please hold on. I want to thank you guys for participating. It's been a wonderful evening. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, all the supporters, everybody who came in. It was wonderful seeing you. See you next week, where I will have rapper, producer, Kevin Johnson on. He's from Chicago, Illinois. Him used to be in the same rap group. He's going to tell his life story. He's still doing projects. He's going to, hopefully he'll inspire people to continue their dreams as well. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, supporters. It's been a wonderful evening, and have a nice day.
Thank you all. Much love.
Thank you.